The final war of One Piece has just started, but not by Luffy, instead by his father and the Revolutionary Army, because they are so busted that Imu needs every Holy Knight to save Marie-Joie, and honestly, it makes sense, as not only do they have Monkey Deadbeat Dragon and his God Fruit, but also his Lieutenant Flame Emperor Sabo with Ace's Mera Mera no Mi. This guy was valued at over 600 million berries before he even got one of the strongest Logias, whose power allowed him to survive against Imu and every Gorosei in Marie-Joie. And don't even get me started on the revolutionary commanders like Karasu, who was throwing hands against Admiral Fujitora and Ryokugu. But that's not all, as after the Reverie and Vegapunk's message, more and more nations with their military might have pledged to join the Deadbeat Revolution, making them the key player in the final war. So let me run through the entire 38-year history and every single member of my GOAT, say it with me, Monkey Deadbeat Dragon's crew. Going back over 40 years ago, Dragon was in the world government, serving as a marine alongside Akainu. But most of you already know that because you have the notification bell on, and if you don't, well, the TLDR is that here he learned the real truth behind the flawed justice that Imu's rule brought to the world. There was massive corruption within the organization, and more often than not, they were harming people more than helping them, especially the blind protection given to the celestial dragons, where they were seen as gods and were above the law. The people even had to pay these bums a tribute, otherwise you wouldn't be protected from pirates or even had pirates or warlords sent to your island as a threat like in Whitebeard's home. The event that tipped the scales for Dragon though was the God Valley incident, when he learned of the celestial culling games where innocent citizens were hunted for sport. If you want a deeper dive on his journey here, watch my last Dragon video after this one, but long story short, he saw the fucked up things happening and left the Marines to bring his own justice of equality to the world. And how did Dragon learn of the God Valley event that might have changed his outlook on the world? Well, Dragon would meet Emporio Ivankov, a former slave who escaped the clutches of the celestial dragons during that day. Hearing about the truth from Eva, Dragon's hatred for the celestial dragons grew even further, and so they created an organization of freedom fighters who would protest against corrupt kings of various countries that were tied to the world government. However, for a while, the Liberation Army was a non-violent and pacifist group of protesters until the fatal Ohara incident, which changed everything. In this massacre, many innocent lives were lost, including Dragon's longtime colleague and friend, Professor Cloud D. Clover. Dragon, being friends with the Ohara scholars, tells us one of the main pillars of his agenda, that he wants not only freedom for people, but also the truth of the world and the Void Century to come out. Because what if Imu and the Celestials have just made up the fact that the 20 kingdoms were the good guys who saved the world from Joy Boy, and the ancient kingdom who were the devil? And honestly, this has been confirmed, as we have just learned in Elbaf that the world is drowning, with Imu literally having the devil no Mi. This is a truth Dragon knew long ago through not only Ohara but his friendship with Vegapunk. So realizing that a peaceful approach wouldn't fix the world or the government, Dragon decided that it was time to go on the offensive, and the current form of the Revolutionary Army was born. But Eva was like, dude, we can't overthrow the world government with just the two of us. And so she suggested they recruit some good old friends from their past. As I stated earlier, Eva was part of God Valley as a slave of the world government, along with two of his friends, Ginny and Kuma. Now, we don't know much about Ginny and Ivankov before their time in God Valley, but Kuma is a much different story. You see, Kuma and his dad were taken in as slaves for the celestial dragons just because they belonged to a race known as the Buccaneers, which made them special due to their abnormally large size and likely affiliation to the ancient kingdom over 800 years ago. But sadly, Kuma's father was shot dead for simply dancing and having fun with the Nika dance. Luckily, during the chaos in God Valley as the battle of Roger, Garb, God's Knights, and Roxy Zebek was heating up, Ginny, Kuma, and Eva took up this chance to escape thanks to Kuma eating the the pawpaw fruit, which was one of the prizes that could be won after slaughtering the locals. Eva was also about to eat the fish fruit model dragon, Kaido's fruit, but luckily Big Mom snatched it and gave it to Kaido. Kuma, with his paw powers to fling people across the world, helped them escape. He and Ginny went to live a life of peace in the Sorbet Kingdom. However, after a new king was instilled with the heavenly tribute costs rising, King Bekuri declared the north part of the kingdom the only actual country, and anyone who lived in the south who couldn't pay their taxes would be enslaved, meaning Kuma and Ginny were cooked. In these trying times, all Kuma wanted to do was serve his community and help alleviate the pain from people around him. Like, this man was using the paw powers to extract people's fatigue, ailments, and everything, tanking it all. A complete juxtaposition to King Bekuri and Imu, who don't take away people's pain, but instead happiness, like with Kuma's dad being shot for dancing. Sadly, with this new tax, many of the old people that lived in the south side with Kuma got taken prisoner. Kuma wouldn't have it and started to crash out on the royal army, leading him and Ginny to be locked up by King Bekuri. But then a savior showed up. Monkey Deadbeat Dragon and his freedom fighters alongside Ivankov. They freed Kuma and Ginny, saving the Sorbet Kingdom. With Kuma already having a kind heart, he and Ginny joined the army as commanders that would liberate other nations from the corrupt clutches of their kings and Imu. Kuma's addition was like a whole big ass powerhouse addition to the team, as Buccaneers have great strength and durability. His devil fruit also was beyond broken, having the power to repel anything his paws came into contact with, even repelling things at the speed of light. Bro literally had instantaneous movement, as he could repel himself too. But using his notoriety along with Ivankov with his Horo Horo no Mi that could enhance combat strength in people and himself, Kuma, Ginny, and the other members of the army were able to amass an even bigger following against the world government, which mainly consisted of people who have been wronged by them. As time passed, the revolutionary ideology to rally against the world government spread across the seas, and with more and more countries joining this cause, at this point the world government was forced to consider the deadbeat agenda as a massive threat, giving him the title of the world's worst criminal. Because you can kill the pirate king, but not the ideas the revolutionary army was preaching. Similar to how the editors can cut me out, but they can't kill the dragon is coming to Elbaf agenda. So type in chat, dragon is coming to Elbaf, and go get some gamer subs. 10% off code ABD. If you get gamer subs, you're supporting the deadbeat agenda right now. Go get it. Thank you. Please, I beg you.
Please, Pete, I need this!
Around the same time, a very important event would take place. Dragon would somehow gain some Riz and have a child, Luffy, which, mind you, nobody knew about, not even Ivankov, Kuma, or Luffy himself. This boosted my goat's strength immensely as he became a deadbeat. My man didn't even use the milk excuse. He let Garp, his own father, take care of Luffy as he was busy hiding from the world government. Although, he would often go back to Fuchsia village and keep an eye on his son's growth, which Kuma had noticed. So I guess the dragon gets like 0.00001% DAP points, okay, at least in that regard. However, when he was confronted by him, Dragon hoped Kuma would never bring this up again, as he wanted to keep it a secret from the world, fearing for Luffy's safety. And you really can't blame him for it, right? He's the most wanted man on Earth, and it's highly likely that the world government or his other enemies would use Luffy as a means to take advantage of the revolutionary army. So Dragon kept his distance from his son and continued strengthening his army by dividing it into various units. The first main unit was led by Ivankov, known as the G Army, while the other 4 units were named the North, South, East, and West armies respectively, likely referencing to the different seas of the world, and the G Army is the Grand Line, which consists of Paradise and New World. Speaking of which, Ginny was made the East Army commander after 8 years of service. However, while commanding the East Army, Ginny was kidnapped by the world government. Now, you might think, the revolutionary army, with all their might and my goat at the helm, they would rush through the gates of Marie-Joie and bust Ginny out, right? Nope. Like father, like son. To Dragon, the agenda is above all else. There's a reason Dragon had to do this, and it's a very noble reason. Let me explain, okay? Dragon's crew isn't like a crew, it's an army, okay? They are at war against the world government, and in war, casualties are inevitable. Hate Dragon, if you will, for not going to save Ginny, but if he had gone and failed, then the things that are happening in the world right now, like the 8-nation rebellion threatening Imu's 800-year rule, all of that would never occur. Luffy and the pirates would wreak havoc around the world, sure, but it would be limited to a small area, and with time, the individual pirate crews will perish. Then, Imu and the government's immortal grasp would reign once again. Only Dragon and the Revolutionary Army, with their goal of overthrowing the current world order, can assist a figure like Luffy in toppling the government. They have the promise of a better life for the world. Luffy just wants to be the freest man alive. He isn't a hero or a conqueror. He said this himself. Every island he goes to, he fights authority because they hurt his friends. But to the Revolutionary Army, the citizens of every nation are their friends by default. So Dragon can't make rash decisions. His plan is a decades-long march. At their current strength, Imu, the God's Knights, Admirals, Marines, CP0 would squash them like bugs. The rebellion would be over before it even began, okay? Alright, you guys get that? That's why Monkey Deadbeat Dragon couldn't go and save Ginny. Ginny was eventually forced into a marriage with the Celestial Dragon as a what? Okay, maybe Dragon deserves some of the hate. I'll concede that. While staying in Marie-Joie, Ginny was also experimented on by Saturn and contracted a contagious disease known as sapphire scales, which gets worse when exposed to sunlight. I guess the test failed since she caught the disease, so Saturn threw her out of the Holy Land while she was pregnant with baby Bonnie. Unfortunately, before she could meet Kuma, she succumbed to the disease, leaving Bonnie under Kuma's protection in the church where they grew up in the Sorbet Kingdom. Ginny's death was a massive blow to the Revolutionary Army, and probably out of guilt and also part Ginny was a beast, Dragon decided to leave her position vacant for 8 years till Bello Betty took over as the new East Army commander with Kuma's blessing. And honestly, with Bello Betty's bounty being the highest out of all of the commanders, this just goes to show what kind of strength Ginny might have had. She was definitely one of the strongest. And with Kuma already being a beast and becoming a warlord, she was on a different level. Around the same time as Ginny's kidnapping, Dragon traveled to his home in the Goa Kingdom for official revolution business with Shimotsuki Kochiboro, who was giving the army supplies. This showcases how throughout the world there are people and factions aiding the silent revolution for decades, especially someone like Koshiro, who was originally from Wano. It's here where the Revolutionary Army would run into their future strongest commander, Sabo, begging for help as he thought his brothers Luffy and Ace were caught up in the Great Terminal Fire. Sabo felt helpless and stated that the nobles' hearts were worse than trash and that he was ashamed to be born as one, which Dragon took to heart and enacted on a plan in order to save some of the people and embarrass the world government. However, the next day, when Sabo decided to leave Goa on a stolen fishing boat, he was shot out of the water by a bazooka wielded by Saint Jalmak, just because he was offended that Sabo crossed his path. While Sabo tried to blow out the flames, a second shot completely destroyed the ship, and by the looks of it, Sabo as well. Everyone thought Sabo kicked the bucket here, but as we all know, Dragon came to the rescue and saved Luffy's brother from the wreckage, where his injuries were immediately treated in the Revolutionary Army's ship at the Shimotsuki village. Bro did more for Sabo in like 12 hours than he did for Luffy's his entire. That's why he's the strongest deadbeat, okay? That's why he's my GOAT. Dragon is coming to Elbap. I'm telling you guys, he's gonna show up in Elbap. The storm is gonna come. He's gonna save Luffy from Imu. He's gonna save the Straw Hat. He's gonna save Ja Rule, everyone, okay? He's coming.
Sid? Guys, I think he just fainted from glazing Dragon too much. So, let me take over. After he woke up, not Sid, he's still passed out. I don't know what's wrong with him. But Sabo was diagnosed with amnesia and could only remember his own name. And so he stayed with the Revolutionary Army and trained under Fishman Hack and Kuma, rising to the rank of the second in command right after Dragon, known as Chief or Staff Sabo. Through his exploits, Sabo gained a huge bounty of 602 million berries, which honestly is way too low, especially after he gained Ace's Mera Mera no Mi. Bro was able to 1v1 and withstand an admiral like Fujitori's power in Dressrosa. So Sabo's bounty has got to be like over 1 billion at this point, maybe even rivaling Luffy after what he did in Mary Joie. He literally witnessed Imu in the Gorosei's demon god fruit forms. Like, if I was the world government, this guy would be at like the top of my list. He knows far too much. Furthermore, at the same time, Koala, another former slave who was rescued by Fishman Tiger, joined the Revolutionary Army. Although scared of Fishman at first due to her trauma as a slave, she learned that there are good people in the world like Fisher and Jinbei. That's my goat right there. I love him. And so she joined the revolutionaries to fight so that others around the world can be saved just like she was. Especially after the hate she felt after Fisher Tiger was brutally killed by the government. She even trained under another fishman being Hack, becoming proficient enough in fishman karate to take down large enemies with great agility, as well as make big ass jumps. She's above your average revolutionary soldier, about on the same level of strength as a commander. Together, she, Sabo, and Hack would go on missions together as a team. But before Sabo and Koala reached their high ranks, Kuma decided to leave the Revolutionary Army, as Bonnie had caught the same disease that took her mother. His main goal right now is to find a cure for his adopted daughter, so he traveled all across the world to find a doctor that could help, while Bonnie stayed in the same church where her mother grew up, eventually reuniting with Dragon after 4 years. Seeing his friend in dire need of help, Dragon tipped Kuma off about his old friend Dr. Vegapunk, and told him about his whereabouts after the Punk Hazard incident, that being his current new laboratory, Egghead Island. I'm sorry, like, I know Sid has a gun to my head, and this will probably be cut by him during the video review before upload, but you told me that Dragon knew about Bonnie's condition and knew Kuma was trying to find a cure, but it took this deadbeat 4 years, 4 fucking years, to leave his chair and tell Kuma that, oh yeah, I know the smartest dude on the planet that can help Bonnie. Absolute trash. Go back to sitting on your desk, bro. I'm so fucking done.
Daddy, chill.
So using this information, Kuma took an 8-year-old Bonnie to Egghead, where Vegapunk confirmed that he could treat Bonnie's condition through stem cell treatment. But he wasn't doing this out of the goodness of his own heart, as a scientist's greatest weapon is his curiosity. So Vegapunk wanted to learn more about Kuma's body and the Buccaneer heritage, wanting to make clone soldiers using Kuma as a template. So Kuma made a deal with Vegapunk that he'd provide enough blood samples in exchange for curing Bonnie, since all he really cared for at that time was saving his daughter's life, as you know, any good father would. However, during this time, Saturn was eavesdropping on the entire conversation, and gave Kuma 3 more additional terms to fulfill, only then giving the green light for Bonnie's treatment. I mean, it can't be that bad, right? The conditions were as follows. 1. Kuma would have to join the Warlords of the Sea, essentially becoming a dog of the military. 2. He would have to turn himself into a cyborg under the world government's control. And finally, 3. He would have to give up his personality and free will. Oh my god, Saturn, leave this family alone for the love of God! Now, any sane person would tell Saturn to kindly fuck off, but Kuma is not a deadbeat dad. He's the greatest dad ever, and he was hell-bent on saving his kid. So, unfortunately, he agreed to the conditions and slowly but surely turned himself into one of the strongest weapons in the world government's arsenal with the help of Vegapunk. This entire process took about 6 months, where out of nowhere, Dragon heard the news that Kuma had become a member of the 7 Warlords. Things started getting even more confusing as Kuma would one day save a Revolutionary Army comrade, but would eventually leave without saying a single word. This created turmoil amongst the army, but Dragon told his soldiers that he trusted his old friend, and asked them not to chase after Kuma, as he probably had his reasons for acting the way he did. At the same time, Eva and Inazuma were thrown into Impel Down. But don't worry, Eva wasn't gonna throw in the towel, because Eva is just different. Due to his insane body proportions, Eva has massive physical strength, being able to carry a normal-sized prison guard with one hand and knock Kuma away with great force. He's also incredibly agile even with his bobblehead-off physique, a proficient martial artist able to keep up with Sanji pre-time skip, and durable enough to be unfazed by Impel Down's 5th level with freezing hell. Additionally, he's also pretty good in the medical field, being able to tell a person's physical health condition only after a short while. This is because Eva's got a big brain. I mean, bro even successfully figured out that Dragon was always looking towards the East Blue because he had family there. His devil fruit is also one of the craziest, and honestly, zestiest ones we've ever seen in the entire series, as Eva is able to use special hormones to alter a recipient's body in any way he desires, basically allowing him to completely remodel a person. He does this by turning his fingers into syringes, which he injects into a target's body, including his own. With this, he can change a person's sex, growth, skin pigment, stamina, emotions, and so on. This is why he's known as the miracle person. Eva also uses his hormones on himself to alter his physical characteristics so he has an advantage in combat, such as enlarging his head even more to an astronomical size and changing into a girl to make his body more flexible. He's also able to make adrenaline hormones, helping people fight at full strength when they're fatigued or even on the brink of death. Just look at Luffy during Marineford. Like, without Eva, he would have 100% died. You know the "if I was a woman" meme? Yeah, this devil fruit is pretty much just that.
Bro,
Sid should ask Eva for help so he can goon the dragon even more, if you know what I'm saying. He also served as somewhat of a mentor to Sanji during the 2-year time skip, teaching him Okama Kempo, a martial arts style which strengthened Sanji so much that he was able to beat pacifistas that were untouchable just 2 years ago. Like, Eva was kicking Sanji's ass, beating his Black Leg style very easily using his new Kama Kempo. But similar to Mihawk's training with Zoro, Eva challenged Sanji to beat 99 masters of new Kama Kempo with the hopes that Sanji would learn haki during this time and would eventually give him a boat after 2 years to return to Sabaody with his training complete. The other member of the G Army we actually know about is Eva's right-hand man, Inazuma. He's pretty serious, calm, and level-headed, except when he's a woman. Yeah, you heard me right, bro will just change genders on the fly. As a girl, he, or I guess she, is a lot more warm and cheerful, but regardless of gender, he's always loyal to Eva. Inazuma's strong suit is his paramecia devil fruit, which allows him to transform parts of his body into scissors, which can cut through any solid material, including stone and metal. He can also use his powers as blades, and manipulates terrain like the ground into strips and hurtles them towards an enemy. At this present moment, the Revolutionary Army is still considered to be a massive threat towards the world government, with their forces being at the strongest we've ever seen, especially after the Lelougia incident, where more recruits from the Destroyed Kingdom would join up with the army. Currently, their home base is Kamabaka Queendom, which is Eva's hometown, as he is one of the most trustworthy companions of Dragon. At this base, all 5 branches have come together for the final war. So let's go over all of them right now, starting off with the North Army, and its leader being Karasu, alongside his right-hand man, Jiron, I don't know. I have a tendency to butcher names, so Jiren, I guess. Karasu is an extremely powerful combatant. He's quiet and normally communicates via mumbling, needing the mask to be heard by others. Despite this, he's an honorable man who despises those who attack the weak and has a bounty of 400 million. For reference, he was evenly matched against Fujitora, a freaking Navy admiral, and this is all thanks to his immense fighting experience and his devil fruit, which allows him to create, control, and transform his body into suit at will, normally using the power to mold a suit into a flock of crows. He uses them to relay information to his allies as they fly at super high speeds, but of course they're also usable in combat, being able to disarm enemies by snatching away their weapons and attacking directly. To make things even more impressive, each crow is capable of carrying an average-sized person on its back. He even asked Vegapunk to join the Liberation Army, but unfortunately, Vegapunk would require a lot of funds to continue experiments. Jiren, on the other hand, yeah, we really don't know much about this dude besides that he's part of the North Army. He's a deputy commander, meaning he's got some degree of authority amongst the lower ranks, and is also capable of eating inedible objects and not suffering any consequences, but that's really it. The next commander is the replacement for Ginny's East Army, being Bello Betty, with a bounty of 475 million, and she's currently known as her nickname, the Flag Bearer of Freedom. This is due to her devil fruit, which allows her to encourage and rally people into fighting by increasing their resolve and physical strength. Once someone's been encouraged, the power will keep going for a very long time. I mean, she was even able to turn the helpless citizens of Lelougia into a full-blown fighting force, strong enough to beat back the invading Peachbeard pirates with only sticks. Her deputy commander is Ahiru. She's a cyborg, with her arms being completely robotic, and she'll definitely make it known too, as she has a tendency to make robot sounds with her mouth whenever she moves her arm. Not much is known about her abilities, but she's mentioned that her arms have shooting capabilities. So who knows, maybe during the war she's gonna perform some insane sniper feats. Moving on to Lindbergh with a bounty of 316 million, he's a Mingcat and commander of the South Army. This man is all about combat, using it as an opportunity to test out his new weapons. As a Mink, he's a natural born warrior capable of using Electro, also having the ability to use Sulong when he he sees a full moon. Whether or not he can control it though is a different story. But his most defining trait is that he's a highly talented inventor, creating weapons and gadgets for combat, including a jetpack that allows him to fly and shoot full-on lasers. Like guys, this is something on the level of Frankie, Queen, and Vegapunk. My man is smart beyond his years, bro. He's also skilled at using these weapons, as he was able to aim his cool shooter at only the weapons of the Peachbeard pirates, leaving them unarmed so that the Lugia citizens could defeat them themselves. He also accurately shot the chains of the world nobles as slaves. His second in command is Gompo, this fat little fuck who we actually know literally nothing about. Bro is just an egg. Like, what do you do?
I guess we'll never know.
And finally, wrapping things up, we have the West Army. Let's just get the second in command out of the cow. This is Ushiano. He's a cow, and as a mink, he can use electricity and Sulong form. That's it. But let's move on to the commander, Morley, with a bounty of 292 million. And this dude is huge. Oh yeah, and I should probably mention, he's actually not a dude.
What the hell is even that?
She's a giant and a newcomer, being described as a potato giant. Over 100 years ago, Morley was a wanted pirate locked away in Impel Down, but managed to escape using her devil fruit, which allows her to mold the ground like clay. The tunnel she's carved would later become level 5.5 of the prison, aka Newcomer Land. Her commander status isn't just a title, as her devil fruit's molding powers can completely morph the ground into a fierce battlefield. Her large stature is also incredible, which also increases the range of her devil fruit's use. I mean, this is a person who Doflamingo even recognizes as a formidable warrior. And with that, that's the 4 commanders in Sabo. The Revolutionary Army are fighting the world government right now, with their declaration of war happening at the Reverie when they freed Kuma and the slaves from Mary Joie. But their biggest feat would have to be the destruction of the gondola that brought resources up to the Holy Land like food, which has caused the pampered Celestials to feel the hunger that their heavenly tributes have caused the rest of the world. But if you enjoyed this video, watch the 40-minute video on Dragon where Sid explains why he has the strongest god fruit. Bro, stop with the glazing, please!